All right, YouTube. Once again, it's Kennard Vernon Stewart for the podcast talking Auburn football. Go ahead and subscribe to Vernon Speak Sports Auburn. And as always, it's great to be an Auburn Tiger War Eagle. Down in Deep South, college football is king, and on the plains of Auburn, the battle cry is War Eagle. All right, so there are a lot of different angles of this week as we talk about Auburn versus Georgia. But first, we're gonna start out with talking about SMU. SMU has some players that have decided to sit out the rest of the season and then enter the transfer portal. Now, this is very similar to players that decide to opt out for the bowl game, which, I mean, given the situation, is kind of halfway okay, but you've made this commitment to these universities, you've taken these scholarships, but now you got players now that have opted out of the rest of the season to enter the transfer portal. Now, I just think that type of thing has taken a bad turn. I don't think it's acceptable. At a certain point, I do understand the trajectory of all things, but it really takes a bad turn as it relates to how things will turn out moving forward. If this is allowed, if this is accepted, then you have a different element coaching staff wise that you have to deal with. Because, a lot of these players that enter the transfer portal, let's just say mid-season, it's a possibility that a lot of those players were there to add depth to the situation down at SMU. But I want you guys to follow this story. Go ahead and like the video, comment, and subscribe to Vernon Speak Sports Auburn. Auburn taking on Georgia. Georgia is a heavy favorite against Auburn here this week. We're talking about a 20-plus favorite. And my thing is this. I don't doubt the possibility that Georgia will prevail against Auburn by more than 20 points. But my issue is, what is this based on? 33-0 against Samford. Yeah, you did great against South Carolina, 48-7, and absolutely phenomenal against Oregon in that particular ball game. Now, I'm not saying that Georgia will not win the game, but I'm not sure if I'm a Vegas, if I'm a bettor that I'm going to bet in this regard. Go ahead and like the video again and subscribe to Vernon Speak Sports Auburn. And as always, it's great to be an Auburn Tiger War Eagle. Auburn goes into their one of their biggest rivals against Georgia. Auburn just has not been successful in this particular football game in Athens, let alone in Auburn in the last few years. And, I think it's going to all boil down to Auburn's ability to make some things happen in a lot of ways. Number one, Robbie Ashford, who will presumably be the starting quarterback, he has to handle his emotions. It can't be a situation to where, because a bad play is bound to happen in this particular stadium. You're talking about one of the better defenses in the country, a very opportunistic defense that can really make some things happen that as it relates to the trajectory of the game. Now, we're going to go real quickly to Georgia in their battle against Kent State. In the Kent State game, you're talking about a 26-13 halftime score, and Georgia only scoring 13 points in the second half, winning that game 39-22. a lot of people on the surface will look at this and say, well, you know what? Georgia's very vulnerable. And I think they are. I mean, I think there are some injuries that have played a part in Georgia's situation as of now. And that's what usually happens as you get to the midway point of the season, as does Auburn. You talk about Auburn losing Iko Leota and Cam Riley, who is presumed to be hurt. He didn't have any action last week. And when you look at a game like this, you got a rivalry game, you got a rivalry game on the road, you got to face a lot of different emotions. And one thing Auburn does have to do, I mean, Cole Kubelic, he stated it plain. Auburn does not have that bread and butter situation that they've had in the past. I mean, you talk about the past where you had Carnell Williams and Ronnie Brown. You have that situation where you have Cam Newton and his situation at Auburn. And then you have in 2013 where you have, Nick Marshall and their bread and butter plays. But where's the bread and butter plays now? You have what people thought was going to be the best running back in the country in Tank Bigsby. I mean, he had 100+ yards in the first game against Mercer, but really hasn't done much since then. So where are those bread and butter plays going to come from to where Auburn can have some type of production in the second half? Because if Auburn can't produce in the second half, it doesn't matter how well they come out. They could come out with Georgia in 17-0, kind of like Missouri did, but then have the same outcome, losing in the end. So where does that come from? Robbie Ashford, I think he experienced some growing pains against Louisiana State. He has to control his emotions. He can't let the emotion get to him in this game. And, that just is the trajectory of this football game. Can Auburn beat Georgia? I think any team can be beat. But if you can't score in the SEC in the second half, you're talking about probably single-digit scoring in the second half for Auburn in the last few Power 5 football teams they played. They just haven't been able to make it happen. So if they can't do that, prediction time is coming on Thursday, and we're going to talk about that then. Go ahead and like the video, comment, and subscribe. And as always, it's great to be an Auburn Tiger, War Eagle.